My name is Malcolm Duffy, the writer of Me Man, Me Dad, Me. The idea came to me about 3 or 4 years ago. I was working at Comic Relief, where I was creative director, working for Richard Curtis, and I was fortunate enough to visit one of the projects in the West Country. And we met many women and children who'd been victims of domestic abuse. What was interesting is that some of the children were very talkative, but I remember one particular boy, he was about 13, 14 years old, and he could barely speak about the experiences and things that he'd witnessed at home. And I thought at the time, this would make a really interesting starting point for a story. What is going on in that boy's head? And this little boy in the West Country, he became the inspiration for Danny, the hero of this particular story. I wanted to give the book a very different tone of voice, so I set the story in Tyneside, which is where I'm from, and set Danny actually not in Newcastle, but maybe felt a bit obvious, but in Gateshead, again a part of the northeast I know very well because my brother lived there, my grandma lived there. I wanted to come at it from a different angle, and the story is really about a boy's love for his mum and the lengths that he's prepared to go to save her. I know a lot about the subject matter, but I wanted to look at it from the viewpoint of a 13-year-old boy, so he comes at it with a bit of naivety really. He's never even heard the term domestic violence before. He just knows that his mum is suffering at the hands of her partner and he doesn't know what to do. And I guess like a lot of young kids, he goes to the internet for advice and he finds a lot on there, and a lot of what he reads about is happening to his mum, and a lot of the traits of Callum, her partner, you know, are coming through from the internet and stories about what perpetrators do to their victims. So he's a bit of a loose end. He doesn't know who to turn to. He's not that particularly close to his relatives. He doesn't want to ask them. He's got a girlfriend, but that doesn't seem right. And the obvious thing for him to do is to speak to his dad. The problem is he doesn't know who his dad is. So he goes on a journey to try and find his dad and ask him to help and, I guess, sort out this guy Callum and, you know, to save his mum. I wanted to reflect part of my upbringing with Danny, who's a typical boy. He loves his football, he loves Newcastle United, he's got his gang of mates who he hangs around with, and you know, he gets himself a girlfriend. He's just a regular guy really. He hasn't really got much of a side to him. He's just like a lot of, you know, young kids I see nowadays who are just, you know, happy with their football. They want, you know, they're on their laptops, maybe they've got a girlfriend, and they're just ordinary kids. But the different thing with Danny is something extraordinary happens in his life, insofar as his mum's partner starts being abusive towards her, and that is I guess the real turning point of the story. I'd like people to get from this book that probably one of the most important things in life is communication, because for every character in the story, all of their problems come about as a result of not talking to each other. I don't really want this to be a heavy message story, but I think one of the issues that I think a lot of people have, not just with domestic violence, is that they keep things to themselves, or they talk to the wrong people, or they don't speak to the right experts. And I think when people read this story, I'd like them to think, yeah, if ever I was in that position, I'd either speak to somebody close to me, or I'd try and speak to an expert or find someone to talk about.